is Ralph H. Perry, R-A-L-P-H-H-P-E-R-R-Y.
And again, can you now repeat your name, saying hi, my name is?
Ralph, my name is Ralph H. Perry.
Okay. How many years did you work at BorgWarner?
I worked at BorgWarner for 40 years.
And how'd you come on there? How'd you get the job? What was the story behind that?
Well, my dad, he hired in 1923. Actually quit 2 or 3 times and come back the last time in 1936. My dad did, John W. Perry. And when I got out of the Army in 1952, 7 days later, I hired in at Warner Gear in May the 22nd of 1952 and worked till June the 1st of 1994. I'm sorry, 92, 1992, 40 years.
What kind of jobs did you do while at BorgWarner?
Well, I started out on production, and then I went on to trucking out there, material handling they called it, trucking, where you moved material into lines and so forth. And then for the first 20 years, and the last 20 years I worked on labor out there.
Can you explain that?
Yes, that's pulling shavings, sweeping, and so forth, yeah.
What were some of the good and bad aspects of working at BorgWarner?
Well, the good things to me was having a good job, knowing, or at least hoping I was going to work there for quite a while, which I did, and I can't think of anything bad.
Were you ever laid off?
I was laid off just about every other year for the first 20 years I was there.
Can you describe that experience? What happened
Well,
when you were laid off, or?
Yeah, actually I had a relation that was in the contracting business, building homes and stoning homes, and I could always get a job whenever I was laid off with them.
Did it pay as well as BorgWarner, or
No,
did you keep coming back?
it only paid like $1.25, $1.50 an hour back in 1952, and in the early 50s and so forth.
What were you making at BorgWarner at that time?
At that time, I was probably, at that time I was probably making $1.80 maybe. Not too much.
What role do you feel BorgWarner played in the Muncie community?
Well, I think they played a huge role, really, with all the other factories around. Warner Gear was the biggest, I guess, and at one time hired 6,000 people back in the 50s, I remember. So it was pretty big.
What status did BorgWarner workers have within the community? Was it special? Was it special to be a BorgWarner worker?
It was special, I guess, being the big name that it was and everything, and working there, it was pretty big to me, at any rate.
How did local residents view the company itself, and why?
Oh, they viewed it pretty big because of the status of the company and everything, being connected with BorgWarner and everything else. So it was pretty big.
Turning now to the union, what role, if any, did the union play both at work and in your personal life?
Well, the union was really great. Back in them days, the union really was, you got just about most things you asked for back in them days. And then, of course, later on, you know, with all the problems in the economy and everything, it just got worse and worse to where the company got everything. That's my opinion.
How did you view the effectiveness of the union in representing your interests?
Well, they represented it real good, in my opinion, especially way back in the early days, you know, up till the last maybe 10 years or whatever, and then it just got downhill from there. But it was really good up to then.
Are there any specific instances where that you remember of the union fighting for something and you said you got pretty much what you wanted? Is there any specific instance of something you wanted and how you got it? Maybe you can tell a little bit about that.
I honestly can't. there's so many instances there that I can't remember them, I guess, for that matter. I'm just getting old.
So it was a very active union, though.
Yes, very active.
how would you characterize labor management relations at the plant?
I would say that, in my opinion, really it was pretty good, but I guess not like, in my opinion, not like it should be. Seemed like it was arguing and bickering about a lot of different things to me. So I didn't think it was all that great, especially years ago. Well, a lot of things I'm not really familiar with saying. That's the reason it's not so good.
I can imagine the camera kind of
Yeah.
scares me,
Yeah, I've never done anything like this too.
Yeah, me neither. Okay. How am I doing?
You're doing great. Yeah, you're helping me.
Am I doing okay? A couple times I noticed I've talked a little bit.
Yeah, just make sure there's a pause between each.
Sorry.
That gives us editing.
Yeah, my family worked there a lot. My different people in my
Yeah,
family.
you had. I guess we'll get into that later. You had
Okay.
that thing all week now. Yeah. We ready to?
Yeah.
What do you remember about any strikes, or did you participate in any strikes?
Yes, I remember. I can't remember exactly when, but I know it was in the winter time. A lot of them was, and we was set up outside on the east side of Plant 3 there, and it was really cold. That's about all I can remember, really. We had different hours we had to be there, and so many people just sit out in the cold there. Picket.
Did union members shuffle coffee and?
Yes, they did.
too?
We had donuts, coffee, different things. Yeah, it was great.
So the strikes weren't really a bad thing. They were almost a fun break from work. Or?
That's true, yeah. That's exactly right, in my opinion.
What role did the union play in the community? We'll touch on that a little, but.
Well, the union really played a big role because of what they could do for you. There's lots of times, that they really helped, done good. I just can't remember all of them. It's been so long. I've been retired for 17 years, so yeah.
Were there picnics, or did you?
There was picnics.
Gatherings?
There was lots of picnics, gatherings where you could even bring your friends, I guess, there towards the last. So it was pretty good sized picnics, and they were really good picnics, yeah.
Did the union then touch more than just the union workers? You said you could bring your friends.
Right. Well, it started out you could bring your relatives, I guess, and I think it tumbled on down a little bit. So where relatives must have brought friends too.
How did working at BorgWarner affect your family life?
Well, actually, I can speak maybe for my my son who worked there in 1983, and he lost his job and got laid off in July of '08 when they was terminating the factory. And my grandson, one of his sons, had leukemia, and he lost his job, and it seemed like the insurance was around $800 a month, and he couldn't afford that, so he doesn't have any to this day. And my grandson though, is really doing good on the leukemia part, yeah.
Did you have any other family members who worked at BorgWarner? I know you mentioned your father, but
Yeah.
can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah,
I know you had
well,
written
my dad, John, hired in 23 and came back, and I guess this was a thing where he went back to Tennessee and had my oldest brother, and come back and went back to work at Warner Gear in 27, and had my next oldest brother, and went back to Tennessee and had me and my little brother, and came back to work at Warner Gear in 1936 and worked till 66 when he retired. And then I had one of his brothers, my uncle Calton Perry. He worked there from 1951 to about 1977. And then I had, of course, my son I told you about. And then I had my little brother work there. He hired in 1954 and worked till 1965 where he felt led of the Lord to go into the ministry, so he just quit on faith and has been in the ministry ever since then. He's still in right today at Indianapolis. He had churches in Connorsville and Greensburg, and went to over to other lands and pastored and so forth.
Can you describe the significance of BorgWarner closing to you and your family? I know you've touched on it a bit with your son. That was significant. But to
Well,
you personally, does it mean anything
yeah,
to you to have it gone?
Sure, it means a lot. Now they're changing the insurance where we have to pay insurance, and that's still in the courts today. Now the unions won the last two that went to court, but you never know how long they're going to be in court. They're supposed to come up this year, I think, sometime, supposedly. And so now we have to pay each $158 a month insurance, and that's hard on people that's retired with income. I am happy though that I draw a pension from Warner Gear, which helps. If they don't take that, I'm not even sure about that. So, yeah, it's really affected quite a bit.
How do you think the closing affects the Muncie community more generally?
Well, you know, most people, that when they worked, quite a few people here, people spent lots of money here because they worked here, but it's affected just like Chevrolet and Delco and all of them. It's went out. Muncie is really in a crunch right now because of all the closings of all the factories, and Warner Gear was the biggest, I guess.
That's really all I have for today. But at the end of these interviews, I'd like to give you a chance to add anything that you'd like. Is there anything that comes to mind that we haven't touched on that you'd just like to talk about, whether it pertains to the community or BorgWarner?
Yeah, I really can't think of anything, I guess, this time.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
I'll grab your microphone real quick.
Probably.